Recording, everyone, and we should be live now. Hopefully we are now live.
Yes.
Lovely people in the
Hi.
comments, let me know if we're live. Howdy. It is yet another Friday night. Special Friday, a St. Patty's Day Friday.
So, Happy St. Patrick's Day.
We will be celebrating by discussing this week's new episode of Star Trek. So it's a big one, a big return of a legacy character. So hopefully everyone's seen it, and we're not going to spoil anyone's surprise.
If you have not seen
the episode.
If you haven't seen it, leave.
Leave, but come back later.
Yes, come back, but
and it's the start of, I guess, what's basically the will be the second sort of arc within the bigger arc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what it seems to look like. So we all sound pretty enthused. Let's just go ahead and get the show started. I'm Fathery.
This is Dave.
I'm Aaron.
And I'm Rachel.
And this is Tex-Trek.
Engage.
Welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 234th installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we take a deep look at Star Trek old and new. And tonight we are talking about Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 5, Imposters, written by Cindy Appel and Chris Derrick, and directed by Dan Liu? I never know how to say his name. I figured it out on Strange New Worlds. Liu. How do you say that?
Liu.
Wow.
Lao?
Wow.
I could be wrong. I that is not a Japanese name, and that's the Asian country I lived in. So.
But I did know it at one point in time, so go back and listen to the Strange New World stuff that we did last year, and you'll hear me say it correctly somewhere in there.
Mentally overdub that in.
I'll get it right. Sorry. There's just been so much new Star Trek. I got so many new creatives to learn, between and the actors too, and the writers and the directors. So, but yeah,
it's a good problem to have.
It is a very good problem to have. The embarrassment of riches we live in the Latinum age of Star Trek of 2023. Before we talk about this episode, though, I want to say thank you to all of the Patreon supporters out there. That's Starfleet, Sohel, Cakes Eternal, Gay Clevin Lundstrom, Crazy Dutchy, Joanne Robertson, John Dog, Geek Filter, Earl Grey Trekkie, Quarks Bar, and new to the Patreon, Ben Genium. Also, our anonymous supporters. Thank each and every one of you so very much. To celebrate, we will be having our monthly watch party tomorrow from day of recording. So if you're watching us live on Friday, that will be tomorrow, March 18th at 3:30 p.m. Central. If you're listening to the podcast later, you've already missed it, but don't worry, we do one every month. So just $2 a month to get in the Patreon and come to the monthly watch parties. If you want to be more generous, there are some additional perks as well if you want to come in at a higher tier, but $2 will get you to that monthly watch party. And if you come in at the Division 14 level, you actually get to pick the episode sometimes. So our Division 14 supporter, Earl Grey Trekkie, our good friend Robbie, has selected the DS9 episode Way of the Warrior. That's that Season 4 opener. Introduces Worf to the show. A lot of action with, Klingon combat. A lot of Cardassian political shenanigans with Garrick and Dukat. So that one should be a fun one to revisit. It's a big episode. It's double length. So that will be tomorrow, Saturday, March 18th, 3:30 p.m. Central. But yeah, there wasn't much, big news. I guess we have a Star Trek alum won an Oscar, so that's cool for Best Actor, Best Actress.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, big day. She just Michelle Yeoh just priced herself out of Section 31.
They're not going to give up on that.
I-
Paramount Plus is double. They're really gonna. It's not going to be an ongoing series starring her, but they are more
It'll
than
be a
ever.
2-hour movie or something.
Yeah, they're
I
going to
did
make
tweet out
something happen.
when she-
Or they're trying
she
to.
won. When she won, I did tweet out my ongoing joke of, so that Section 31 show is not happening. The last time I did it, was when she got cast in Wicked. And it was like, as someone whose favorite movie is The Wizard of Oz and loves Wicked, I was like, this is a very, I don't know what is good for me.
But yeah, no,
There's some weird science news that came out that somebody just sent me 3 messages while I was in here that we missed a huge coronal ejection flare that went the other direction. Had it hit Earth, we would be not probably having this conversation right now.
Oh, interesting.
An eruption on the far side of the sun is so powerful the shock waves hit Earth. So
well, that's good that we're not far enough in the future yet that we can have an Enterprise crew or somebody come in and save us from that stuff yet.
yeah.
Yeah, well, it'll get us eventually, I'm sure, but not today. Not today, son. Better luck next time.
I mean, it would take out our communications, not us necessarily.
I thought you meant it
No.
would give everyone a stroke or something, like the
No, I don't think
electromagnetic,
that.
like an EMP
That's
type
way
thing.
less-
Isn't-
It'll be
That's
pretty
way less dark than I thought you were going with it. I mean, it would be bad
can't
for my
remember what
job, but
Yeah, I wouldn't have to go to work if all communication shut down, so I'd be kind of okay with that.
It'd probably be bad for hospitals, but
yeah.
Well, let's get into this episode, though. Let's stop talking about the stupid 21st century and get to the 25th century, where all the fun stuff happens, like having your ship overran with changelings and connecting with old friends just to watch them die, and all that fun stuff. Having to stab your mentor you just bonded with, and but no, there's a lot of fun stuff to unpack here. I'd like to quickly recap the episode by reading the official synopsis and then kind of expand on that with some spoilers just to refresh it for everyone. But the synopsis reads, with time running out, Picard, Riker, and crew must confront the sins of their past and heal fresh wounds while the Titan, dead in the water, drifts helplessly towards certain destruction with a mysterious... No, that's the old synopsis, isn't it? What the hell?
Yeah.
I was like, they're
my
not dead
bad.
in the water.
Yeah, that's true.
Here it is. Okay. I'm sorry. Here's the correct synopsis. Caught by Starfleet and facing court-martial, paranoia grows as Picard struggles to uncover whether a prodigal crew member from his past has returned as an ally, or an enemy hell-bent on destroying them all. Which, yes, that does turn out to be Ro Laren finally returned after, 29 years? When did a preemptive strike air?
That's crazy.
The fall of 94?
Wow.
So just under 3 decades ago.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Holy shit.
Yeah, 29 years.
This is almost the first time Ro Laren has appeared in my lifetime. I'm 29.
It's I suppose it's darkly funny that she returned.
Oh, and
to die.
your birthday's in
Yeah.
November, so yeah, you were an infant last time she
Yeah.
was on screen.
The last time she was on screen, literally an
Oh.
infant.
I'm old.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, she returns. We learned that the changeling situation's a lot worse than anyone thought, and everyone's going to be coming after the Titan. But they're in luck. They were able to pick up her investigation, which leads them to Daystrom Station, where I think they're going to be rendezvousing with Worf and Raffi. So these storylines finally converging. Rachel, I don't know about you, but I'm in a festive mood and want to celebrate St. Patty's Day. I actually have a bottle of Jameson, Jack Crusher's drink of choice that I'll drink out of my my Star Trek cruise shot glass that I got on the as a gift from someone on the cruise. So I'm gonna pour myself a shot, but why don't you go ahead and give the first opening statement and let everyone know what your broad impressions were on Imposters.
I'm at my parents' house, but now I wish I had brought I have a lower decks with whiskey glass. I love this episode. I will say I'm glad I didn't read the synopsis before watching this episode, because I was completely shocked when Ro showed up, and I was so happy, and I have come to accept what happens to her after watching the episode a couple times. But it's like
it's a rough one.
It's a rough one. It's rough, but it's such a good moment, and it's something that like it does make sense for that character to like go out in like a blaze of glory.
100%. Yeah.
And it's something, and it's like more common than it used to be, but it's not as common to see like a woman get to make like the heroic sacrifices. So it's like always really cool for me to see stuff like that. And Ro was a character I always loved, so I was just like so happy the entire time. And there was a like time when I was like, don't be a changeling, because I wanted like to actually be Ro. Like seeing her was amazing, and also like Bajorans are like my favorite.
That, like I was worried, you know, they were like, oh, is this?
I was too. And also like Bajorans are like my up there my favorite Star Trek species, so I'm happy anytime they're on.
I like to think that she was beamed off somewhere and she's sitting with Cedo Jackson, and they're just sort of like hanging out chatting.
just chilling. Like
you know,
neither of them are dead.
They really like to play with they really like to play with my hearts with those badass Bajoran ladies.
Watching DS9,
maybe the emissary could sweep in and save her from death.
There you go.
He's the protector of Bajorans.
Yeah, he's got important stuff to do. He's
going to be like, she's not wearing the right religious earring. She dies.
Oh yeah,
she didn't wear her earring correctly.
Oh no,
you don't get to ascend to the celestial temple. You have to go to the fire caves when you die because you didn't wear your earring right.
Oof.
But for me, this was it was a real delight watching Patrick Stewart spar with Michelle Forbes. You know, he's kind of an intimidating actor, and that's one of the hard things about casting Jack Crusher. Terry Metalis talked about, it was hard to find a young 20-year-old dude who could go toe to toe with Patrick Stewart. So yeah, that's why they cast like a dude in his 30s to play this youngster.
Who's like 34.
But you know, Michelle Forbes can definitely measure up to that caliber. And so those scenes.
She measured up to Edward James almost, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, even in the original, her original appearance in the episode Ends in Row, she did not seem like someone who would be cowed.
I mean, there is a reason that they wanted her to become a regular on TNG. Why they offered it to, and they just couldn't get her to do it. Like she wouldn't commit to being a regular. They wrote a part for her in DS9. You know, when they did like their spinoff, they're like, we really want you to be the first officer of the station, and she turned that down. So they had to invent Major Kira, which was awesome. I love Kira, so that worked out great. I've heard conflicting things if like they wanted her on Voyager or not. Like they were going to make her be one of the Maquis that joined. I've never heard that from like Jerry Taylor or Rick Berman, so I don't know if it's true. I think they probably knew the writing was on the wall at that point. They weren't going to get her as a regular. But I
feel like that's something
LA.
I feel like that sounds like something someone suggested. They're like, she's turned us down twice. Like she doesn't want to do that.
Like I don't know who she would have been, like either Chakotay or B'Elanna, and I don't know. They both seem kind of different.
B'Elanna. I think it was Chakotay.
Yeah, I could see she would have like kind of maybe aged into a role that made her feel more appropriate for a first officer.
But I feel like given how they wanted to balance the male and female so much, like they would like, oh, if Chakotay is on, then this person has to be a woman, and they would change the sexes. It's like I don't feel like they're going to bring her on as the first officer with Kate Mulgrew.
It's kind of true. If you have two women on the bridge, like it's a woman's show. What's even happening?
She was never. She never.
I'm not saying that I wouldn't mind that.
No, I know that. Well, but it would be the perception. That is unfortunately the truth.
Yeah, and that is documented. They're like, if we can't find the right woman to be the lead, then we'll just make the first officer a woman and get a dude as a captain, which they thought that's something they considered doing. But yeah, I've always been a fan of her character arc. I like the episode Preemptive Strike. And I never expected to get a continuation to that. That ending, Rose final moments in that tell Picard I'm sorry when she runs off to join the Maquis. And there is always a notion of like, okay, she's out with the Maquis. She could show up on DS9. It never happened. And I just thought like that ship had gone to warp. I was like, okay, yeah, maybe like if they start making Star Trek shows again, maybe we'll get Ro back. But I never thought I would see her and Patrick Stewart on screen. Like I never had like even the audaciousness to hope for that because it just seemed so unlikely. That I would ever see those two actors playing those characters together again. So it was something like I didn't even ask for because I thought there was no chance in hell of getting it. So the fact that we did get it is really phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I finally got more Worf and Raffi after they were absent last week. Although I'm kind of getting tired of them hanging out on Metalis Prime. So glad to see they're probably gone from there, I hope. But it kind of paralleled, the same story. Whereas Ro and Picard are verbally sparring, and it's kind of like this, you have this 50-year-old woman and then her mentor who's older than her, this old dude. And it's like the same thing with like Raffi and Worf, except with them, they're like physically sparring, but it's kind of a similar dynamic. So I kind of like, I like seeing that reflect in each other. And like having a Vulcan crime lord, another thing I never knew that I needed, but I thought that was a lot of fun. Just some quick cool things. I also thought like, Jack's mystery is really starting to entice me. I'm curious to see where that's going. The changelings I suspected last week is like, there's something weird about these changelings. It's not just an updated CGI effect. Like there's a reason why they're more like fleshy and bloody and they explained
Bacon.
that.
Yeah, you were right about that, Father. Yeah, I was like, I don't think they're going to make him a new species. I thought it'd be some other plot thing, and it's not a new species. But I mean, like, I didn't think they were vastly different. But now we know it's some sort of evolution.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing Daystrom Station next week. So, but Dave, what about you? What was your kind of broad takeaway on Imposters?
It's funny. I usually make notes for my opening statement to kind of key off of, and I did make a bunch of notes on the episode, but I forgot to make my opening statement notes. So this is a little more off the cuff.
Yeah, just freestyle it.
Sure. Well, I will say this that it was interesting to see Ro because I know this is a little bit of a broken record, but I had a love-hate relationship with TNG when it was actually coming out, and often it was veered more toward hate, and Ensign Ro was not a character that particularly stayed with me. Since watching this episode, I went back and I watched her first and final appearance on TNG to kind of prepare, to kind of contextualize it. And I was like, it's as is often the case when I revisit TNG, I'm like, this is so much better than I gave it credit for. I really liked her first appearance. Her final appearance set this up beautifully. Like, little did we know they were setting it up 30 whatever years ago, or 20 whatever odd years ago it was. Yes, and so the thing that struck me as I was watching this episode earlier on when Raffi and Worf were fighting, and he does his, it's their second fight, the real fight, or staged real fight. When he does the classic "Today was a good day to die," we've heard that line from Worf many times, and it did prove to not be true of him in this case, but it was true of Ro, and I think this was a good day to die for her. I had to kind of process it a little bit. I kind of, when a character comes back with promise, I kind of hate to see them sometimes that curtailed for drama, even when it makes sense. But it made sense. It is kind of that showed Ro's fighting spirit. The second time I watched it, now with a lot more context, I had tears in my eyes watching her final moments with Picard. It was so good, just incredibly good. And yeah, I'm liking, all the stuff we're seeing. I like that Shaw is still being a prick, but showing signs of, that slightly, I'm going to say a softer side of him being a prick, where he's like, I'm going to step out of the room so you guys can get your dumb shit story straight or whatever. Love that. The only thing I don't like right now is a basic changeling infiltration plot. I want to see whatever twists or things they're going to throw at it. I suspect it is more than just, there's this splinter cell of changelings just wants to bring down the Federation. I hope it's something more deeper than that. But overall, really like the episode. Great performance by Michelle Forbes too.
Cool. Aaron, what about you? What was your hot take on this one?
Yeah. Everything else that everybody said, on top of the fact that I really love that Ro and Picard basically learned to like forgive each other, and I kind of feel like that could be
Mhm.
a little window into how maybe Picard can start thinking about forgiving Beverly for what went on,
Mhm.
That's an interesting
just
point.
because that's emotional.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
kind of been set up.
Well, yeah, he's he said, I'm sorry that it was only in this moment, literally her last moments,
Right.
that he could see her
Mhm.
that way.
Yeah.
And as a catalyst in story terms, like that is a good reason for him to fast forward with Beverly.
Mhm.
Yeah, Picard can be a little thick sometimes. I think sometimes,
Yeah.
emotionally
think-
at least.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
Jack Crusher says. He's like, for a brilliant guy, you sometimes, what is he like? You're pretty not
Right.
very good at reading the room or something like that.
Yeah.
When he thinks that he's Jack is gonna hang around or something. Maybe
Yeah.
be in Starfleet.
Yeah, it's like, I know your mom just said don't trust Starfleet, but have you ever considered joining?
Come
It
on.
might be good for
Starfleet?
you. There's people trying to abduct me. You want me to enlist with them? Okay.
I do hope we kind of get more of Jack's story sooner rather than later, because it's starting to feel a little bit like
Mhm.
the mystery box is like seeping into this. Hoping that
That
the
is-
mystery Jack in the box, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It is. It's
Well,
so
Jack
often,
in the
like how
mystery
they
box?
structure these kind of serial stories, though, is to have a few big payoffs.
Yeah.
I was
I'm thinking
glad.
that if they only like maybe the next episode, because they gave us 6 preview episodes of the people who got the screeners, and then
Mhm.
there's the other 4. So I'm wondering if it's like there's a big break here at this point or something.
Yeah.
I did. I was gonna bring this up at the end, but it's kind of coming up now. Is that like I was like, what he like said to his mom, like I think there's something wrong with me. I was like, oh, thank God, they're gonna start exploring it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, don't drag it out too long. That's actually
Yeah.
something that I gave Picard season 2 a lot of credit for in the first half of the season. Is I thought like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, as soon as like they introduce something, they don't draw it out too long. They kind of move it
Mhm.
along to the next thing. They give you the next reveal, and then like they tease some other mystery, and then it kind of lost that about halfway through season 2. So now that we're halfway through season 3, I'm hoping that it can maintain that
Mhm.
consistency. And
It's really interesting. It feels like every time that we're like, this really needs to, suddenly it does. It's just like they're somehow reading our mind. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
that needs to be explained. There's an explanation in the next scene. You're like, all right, thanks. So
yeah, so they've done a good job with that so far. But yeah, the episode opens with like Jack's murderous nightmares, where he's like mass shooting the Titan bridge crew, and I thought it was wise how they put only the new characters in there. They didn't have like Riker or Seven. It's like,
yeah.
oh, these people are really dying, right? Like they're all like Crash LaForge. Okay, we know he has another daughter. We know there's another Geordie daughter. So I was like, oh yeah, they're just gonna kill this
Backup
one.
daughter.
Yeah.
I don't think this is an intentional link to Trek 2, but the opening on the Kobayashi Maru, of course, is maybe Trek's most famous fake out.
True.
It's funny because of Sydney being there. I was kind of like, that's not real. Because I was like, she died too fast, and I was like, it's Geordie's daughter. I was like, we're gonna see Geordie with her before if she's gonna die before she dies.
For sure.
I would say
And they,
for
they
the
didn't
writing,
try and
that's
hold it as a fake out for too long.
No,
I
they
say, I
really
think that
didn't.
their fake outs aren't fooling anyone. That's the one thing I would say. It's like every time they're like, oh, they're trying to think Worf is dead, or Rafi's actually been, she's gone back to being a drug addict. Like, no, and it's like super obvious, and I guess it's supposed to be.
At no point did I think Worf is dead, and I honestly, I'm betting the fake outs probably work better for people who aren't like us, who was like, no, this wouldn't happen yet, like.
Right. Yes,
like,
this show probably is bringing back a fair number of casuals, and so it's probably hitting harder for them. And I will say this: I don't think like the drama of the weight of most of the episode hinged too much on those fake outs. So
no,
not too bothersome.
True.
But yeah, it is true. It's like I knew Worf wasn't dead.
Why does his eyes glow red? Is he possessed by a paw wraith?
I've seen that theory.
I mean,
he's a Cylon.
That's a red eye thing, right? Whenever
that is a red eye thing.
Whenever Jake got possessed or Dukat got possessed, their eyes would turn red. They're clearly borrowing from DS9, but that just seems like too much DS9 for like these TNG people. They're gonna go fight the changelings and the paw wraiths. Like that seems like a weird send off to the TNG saga.
Eyes glowing red anything is like that's science fiction and that's
They've
horror.
swiped,
It's just,
That's
uh,
very true.
They swiped
It's not
7
just
from
DS9.
Voyager.
Mm.
They're you know
Mhm.
they're pulling
Yeah.
from different places, but
Worf would
some
Worf
sort
would
of
like to
union-
remind you that he was on Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But
But yeah, some sort of union between the Power Wraiths and Changelings. Well, to me at least, that would be more interesting than just Changelings. So
Sure.
it'd be at least the
Yeah.
start of something
Honestly,
potentially.
if it wasn't for the last 2 seasons, I would guess Borg. But
I,
I don't think they're gonna...
I think Borg. I think that's most likely. I
Yeah.
thought Borg last week. I said that last, but you would think with Borg it would be green and not red. But yeah, that's,
Yeah,
That's,
it's also
that's
gonna-
such a giveaway, though. Like everybody knows that green equal Borg in Trek
Yeah.
iconography.
Or
I mean,
Romulan.
That's true.
Oh, that's fair.
Hmm.
but I mean,
I-
Borg would make the most sense for the show Star Trek Picard, with Picard as the main character, and
I
it's
don't
like,
think
oh
if-
yeah, maybe.
If the second season hadn't happened, where it had like that whole like a whole plot line about like now there's this like version of the Borg that's like has consent and stuff that I'm like I don't like I. It'd be interesting to see like if they do Borg again, like how they like deal with that.
Yeah, and they've teased the Borg already. They've they
Mhm.
brought up a lot of Borg stuff with Shaw, and he even mentioned last week the real Borg, the bad Borg, the nasty ones. They're still out there somewhere. So, but yeah, who knows? It could be neither the Borg nor the Pa Wraiths. Just thought
Yeah.
Borg seems likely, but we can talk more about Jack in a moment. The
By
episode
the way,
begins with
Joel in the audience says vines, the vine iconography, and that equals gardening, and suggests he's possessed by Boothby. that's our dark horse candidate for who's behind it all.
There you go.
Boothby's mad at the whoever took over for him, and so he was trying to get Jack to just go garden for him.
Wonder how old Boothby would be in universe at this point, because I don't know. he's
Probably
gonna
not
be, like,
alive.
I mean,
Yeah, right?
people live to be like I mean, McCoy was
Yeah.
like 160 when he
true.
visited the Enterprise.
But
or
given how
however
old
was.
he looks, he must have been older than what we thought he was when
Yeah.
we saw
That's
him.
true.
Yeah, Boothby was probably like
And
100
also-
years old in
I
first duty.
Yeah.
That actor, and also that actor is not with us anymore, right?
No.
No
Uh-uh,
way. Yeah,
unfortunately.
sadly not.
Mhm.
That was even before the last Row episode. That was before 20. That was before your lifetime, Rachel.
I know a few people have
Oh,
talked about like,
yeah.
oh, it's species 8472 because there was the vine looking things on
Oh.
what's its face, but they don't act anything like yes, they can change shape, but they change into one other shape, and then when you
Mhm.
injected them with something, they just went back to being 8472. They didn't turn into goo.
Yeah.
It's like that's not how those work. So I don't think I don't think they're like assimilated
Mhm.
8472 changelings or something. I don't know. That would be weird, but that feels like whatever we come up with is probably more complicated than what the actual answer is.
Yeah.
And we'll go, oh,
Right, it's got to
that
be
makes
something
sense.
that's
I
pretty
feel
easy
like
to
what is-
process for a more casual.
Okay, more
audience.
casual
Yeah,
viewer.
exactly.
I also
Yeah.
feel like, and then honestly, like I wonder if they would maybe worry that the pod race would maybe be a little too much of a deep cut for like a really casual viewer. Because
I
like
I don't
even
know.
to the
Are
point where they
changelings
completely-
too big of a deep cut?
They come.
I guess Odo.
completely
People
explained-
Well, they
probably
were
know
a
Odo.
main,
People-
yeah. That
They were the main. Odo was there, and they also completely explained everything you need to know about changelings, just in case.
But you could do that with the Pa Wraiths and
That's true.
one line of dialogue.
But I think Rachel might be right though that they probably
Yeah.
wouldn't go quite that far.
yeah, I think it'd be weird.
Yeah, I feel like they would.
Could it be
we
done?
would be
because
getting.
then
We'd be getting. I think it'd be more likely for us to get like the prophets before we got the Pot Wraith.
well, that's what I thought when I
Yeah.
heard Bev's voice.
But then you're
maybe
gonna
it's the prophets
Yeah.
using her voice.
Then you're gonna have to do like Cisco stuff, and Avery Brooks
Yeah.
is not gonna appear, so we know
Yeah,
that. So
That's true.
maybe
you got to
Who
tiptoe
knows?
around that.
I mean, they figured out how to do changing stuff without Odo.
Yeah, I mean we'll see. I would love to. What if Cisco has an emissary that like speaks for him? He's like the emissary's emissary. Now that the emissary is one of the prophets, there's like a new emissary. I don't know.
Well, he could just
It
show
could
up
be
as
Jake,
anybody at
right?
that point. Then doesn't matter. Yeah, it could be Jake. It could be
Yeah.
It'd also be nice to know that like he can talk to Jake sometimes if he's like.
I like to think
Does
that
Wesley
that
stop
he
in
has
ever and talk with
had
his mom?
interaction. with
Apparently
Jake.
not. Apparently Wesley
Apparently,
does not
Bob.
come home to visit.
Sorry.
Oh God, maybe being the traveler is
think-
like.
Do you think Picard? Oh, I'm sorry. Say what you're saying.
Oh, my mind went blank. The quantum leap where he can't get back home, so he can't get to his
Oh
home.
yeah.
Well, I was just thinking, Picard knows that Wesley is alive. Has he kept that secret so he could have something to hold over Beverly?
Is that a secret? Like, how
I
does
don't know. I don't know.
Did he know?
Does she know? We don't
Wait.
know.
Who does what does? I mean,
Does Beverly know her son is the Traveler? I guess she
yeah,
knows
everyone
he went.
everyone
Yeah.
knows he's the traveler.
She knows he went with him, but
Everyone-
like, has he been in contact? Does he know that the deal with all the what's the other agents or the thing that he's part of too?
The Watchers.
The Watchers, yeah.
No one
Ages
knows that as far as we know, other than
Yeah, I don't
not
think Picard
Soji.
even
What
knows
was
that
the-
because he's.
what was the Data daughter of the 21st century? Was her?
Oh.
It was it was
Not
another like
Soji.
Greek mythology.
Yeah.
What the
Yeah.
hell was her name? Jesus Christ!
That's not Greek mythology.
This is terrible. I hate watching. No, that's not. I hate like watching
That's-
like content like this
that's Western
online, and
mythology.
it's like all these people like they don't even know the name of this character. They have no idea what the hell they're talking about. No, it wasn't Lol. It was
I'm
not Soji, not Sutra, not Daj. It was I know we're supposed to be talking about like
We'll figure
Beverly's
it out.
autopsy and the Intrepid and all this
Yeah.
stuff. Instead, we're like, what was the name of that season 2
Cor.
character?
Cora,
Corey.
Corey.
Yeah.
Corai.
Corey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Corey.
I
Yeah.
googled
That's the
it.
only
That-
person. That's the only person that Will Wheaton talks to when he appeared
Yeah.
in
The Legend of
season
Corey.
2. So.
It's true. It's true.
But yeah, but he showed up for the Riker Troy wedding in Star Trek Nemesis.
Yeah.
So
So-
he showed up for
Well,
that.
at least off in the unedited version, I guess. But he canonically
Yeah,
did he though?
Canonically,
He did
he's
the
there.
background.
He's
Oh,
sitting,
is he?
he's
Do we
sitting at
see
the
him in
table
the-
and
oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
in at least
Okay.
one
He doesn't-
shot.
He
Doesn't
and
say
Whoopi
anything, but
Goldberg-
he's there.
Okay, my favorite it's like it's one thing for that director that like it's Will Wheaton in the background and it's dumb for Star Trek fans. He didn't think that he needed to have Whoopi Goldberg have a line.
Whoopi did have a
Goldberg is-
line.
Does she? And I feel
Yeah,
like she
she's-
has the thing.
No, she's talking to Geordi. And she's talking about she's like,
Right?
this reminds me of my 84th marriage or something. It wasn't that high of a number, but
I do hope
Something
that,
like
I
that.
do hope that and maybe we already know this, but I like that Will or like Wesley or the Traveler or in some way appears in this season.
you know, we've been told that neither Guinan nor Wesley appear in season 3, but maybe that was a lie. I
They
think
did some
it's
trickery with the
probably the
second
truth,
season.
Yeah,
Did they? What did they lie about in season 2?
Well, didn't they say there's no Wesley? But then it was like there was no Wesley, there was the Traveler.
No, they said that Wesley wouldn't be in season 3 when they had all the other regulars coming
Yeah.
back.
I thought that they denied he was going to appear in season 2.
They chose their words carefully. They said season
That's
3.
what I mean. Sometimes
Yeah.
they choose their word carefully. Anyway,
I,
let's move on in the story.
Well, Bev wants to do an autopsy, so shocker there, right? It's like as soon as someone drops dead, like Bev like grabs her scalpel and is like autopsy time.
It's a rare
I-
opportunity for
Woo!
Star Wars
Different-
or Star Trek to be gross.
Different podcast, Star Trek podcast I listened to had like a long running joke about her and her autopsies, and so when that happened, I cackled, like, like
It always seems like she was very good at computer research, and she always had her device and stuff. And the only time that she really got her hands dirty was autopsies. Other than that, she looks like she felt more comfortable in books for some reason. I don't know. That was the view
maybe
that I got.
maybe her actual like thing she should be doing is like running a morgue or something, which is
like a
important. work.
CSI kind of thing.
Yeah.
She'd be like
Star Trek
the-
CSI.
She's like the other famous redheaded autopsy expert of the '90s, Scully.
Yeah, there you
That's
go.
the thing.
Except Dr. Crusher's not a cop, so I like her more.
She's
But,
just space
Yet.
military.
You know what I thought was funny is when Rose shows up, when they make like the big deal, like a big like there are a lot of like pomp and circumstance of like, oh, like the Intrepid, no, like the security officer is coming over on a shuttle. It's like not quite ceremonious, but it's like a big event. They make like an event out of all of it, and then we get the reveal. Oh, look, Michelle Forbes back on screen as Ro Laren, and I like that like Riker is the one who has like the biggest reaction when they initially see each other, because it's like, oh, this is awkward. I slept with that person that one time.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. He's like, remember when we lost our memories?
Hey, it's a connection that'll stay with you.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, Riker also, he slept with Troy and probably Guinan. They got like really flirty when they were trying to teach Wes how to romance, and definitely with Dr. Crusher when he became a Trill. So,
genuine question: Does anybody else know what happened between Ro and Riker? Because they were immediately when they got their memory back, like, we will never speak of this again.
Yes, Troy did, I think. They
at
the table
they at least told their best friends.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. So wasn't Riker also the first person to see Ro on the ship originally, like in the first episode that we see her in?
Yeah.
He was there.
He chewed her out about her earring, and then he's the last one to see her when she they reference it like when she pulls a phaser on him and betrays Starfleet. So
watching that scene again, I really liked how Jonathan Frakes portrayed Riker in that moment, and how it was written. He's not bitterly angry in that moment.
He's not judgmental.
Yeah, he seems to genuinely sort of wish her well. There's definitely probably some betrayal feelings on his part as well, but it feels like it feels nuanced.
Yeah, it's more of like observation and not judgment on his part.
Yeah, he did a great job.
Yeah, he's Riker's a cool dude. Riker's really, just watching this third season of Picard and how great of a job they're doing with Riker, both the writers and Jonathan Frakes. It's really made me reevaluate how I feel about Riker. Like he's just been a consistently great dude for decades, for all my life, and I really appreciate the character more now than ever. I think.
I do. I love Riker. It's the scene where he chews her out about the earring has always bothered me, just because you see Worf like pretty soon after, and he's wearing his Beldrick, and I was like, this is the same thing.
Worf probably followed the rules and like applied for permission to display some cultural and Riker was probably thinking, oh, this Ro character, she's a bad apple, and I can't cut her any slack. I gotta really stay on top of shit with her to maintain discipline.
For sure.
If you look in the motion picture at that group of all those people, they all had like weird individual things.
The Native Americans that are there.
Yeah.
I do agree in the comments that her makeup does not stand out as much as it used to.
No,
that's
they made it
finally.
I
realized what made me think like, why is this not Ro? It is, but it's not. And they're like, oh, her nose is like virtually human looking.
Yeah.
The Bajorans on TNG were a little different than how they looked in DS9. They kind of had like additional ridges at like the top of the bridge of their nose. There's like these two little things sticking out, and Ro had that.
It was still stronger. Yeah.
Yeah, they removed it here. Although she does look more consistent than say Core King and Koloth looked, comparing the original series to how they looked in DS9.
But also, we don't.
If you zoom in on her, it really looks like it's makeup. It doesn't even look like it's actually an appliance.
Why they did that, but one thing that occurs to me is that they may have wanted to make sure she had the absolute fullest range of facial expressions for what was going to be a very intense sequence.
I also think her hair, like covering her, like her hair was always more pulled back on TNG, so like her ears would show, probably so you could see the earring. And so I think for a second the hairstyle threw me off.
For people who don't know, by the way, Michelle Forbes is from Austin, Texas, where 3 of the 4 of us live. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. She's also a cool person in real life. She's got some cool opinions on a lot of shit. This episode, though, like because they are doing so much with Ro, and they got Picard stuff to do, Crusher stuff to do, etc. I feel like the show has done a decent job of finding things for Seven to do to keep her involved in the story, but she's always doing like like the they find like odd jobs for her. She gets the odd
I'm gonna go hustle this person over here, I'm gonna go do this thing over here.
So she's like a person at a military camp who can kind of get stuff done, find you something, pull off something. She kind of that's her power.
Wait,
And she has
here-
a little mini team up with Jack again here.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
she's already established some type of partnership with Jack when they had to work together previously. And here, Picard asked her, "Hey, do me a solid. Try to like sneak my son away because we're scared that someone in Starfleet might snatch him up." And Jack is still freaking out. Like I never knew like if it was real or not. Y'all were saying like the fake outs didn't work for y'all, but the Jack stuff always kind of tripped me up. Like the bridge stuff initially, I thought that might be real, and then here when he has like a vision of shooting the transporter officer,
Yeah.
I was questioning. I was
That
like,
one,
is this real
one
or
was
is
tricksy.
this fake? Yeah,
That was
Yeah,
the
that
second
one- that-
fake out.
that one got me because it was the only one that like bumped me. I was like, I don't think it's real. Was literally because Sydney was there, and I was like, I don't think they would do that.
Did they also show him like messing screwing with the transporter where it like killed those people?
no,
Or did
that
they
I think
just-
that was just he was just seeing those red vines or branches or whatever they
I will
are.
say-
Just like
Mm.
they just
The
like combined
first
those
time-
effects.
The first time I watched this, though, I lost track of where Jack was, and I was like, "Where is he?" Like, I was like, "Did he dream over?" I literally have no idea. Where
And can
is.
he see the future? Like that first vision he had of him killing
Mm.
everyone on the bridge. He's wearing the red Starfleet uniform that he
Mhm.
later is given by 7 of 9. So it's like, how does he know he's going to wear that in the future? So is there some
Yeah.
prophetic element? Like that does
Prophets.
sound more like prophets, paw wraiths, that type of thing.
I
So.
did have one thought, which was that when Beverly says that it was an evolution of the changelings, broadly speaking, this is human evolution, but it takes some time. It can happen over short spans of time,
Mhm.
but major changes take hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of years. So I'm like, is there possibly some sort of, if not time travel, then something adjacent to it, that accelerated them to, a faster evolution?
Yeah. I think they just evolved
They could-
themselves because they're good with genetics,
Yeah.
right? They engineered the Vorta and the Jem'Hadar.
And you can see like bugs and bacteria and all that. Like they can actually go through lots of generations really, really quickly. So they might have
Sure.
been able to accelerate.
Yeah, it might make
that.
more sense
Mhm.
for something like that.
I mean, they managed to make an entire species dependent on a drug. Like, I feel like they could mess with their genetics enough.
Caffeine. Oh wait, no.
Oh, that's another thing that those branches kind of look like is like the blight from DS9, because they
yeah.
the Dominion engineered that virus that those poor people
From the quickening.
from the quickening.
Maybe it's
No,
Yeah.
the blight is the Vidians, right? I'm thinking.
I was gonna say it's the
Oh,
yeah.
phage.
I'm
It's
sorry.
The
The
phage.
phages.
No, the
Phage
phage,
is-
yeah.
Yeah.
I always like the horror adjacent
That was
Vidians.
good.
So
I recently
I get the blight
rewatched
and the phage
Quickening, and
mixed
then
up.
because like Bashir's my favorite character, I was like, oh right, I don't rewatch this episode because it makes me sad.
It is a sad one, yeah. It's
you know what's interesting though, talking about like casual people watching this, is that they did do a pretty good job of getting you quickly up to date on the emotional crux and pain between Ro and Picard, so that it's so that that their final scenes together can have some resonance, even though yes, we're talking something a callback to 30 years ago.
I'd
Yeah.
be curious how someone watching this episode without knowing TNG, I'd be curious how
Yeah.
that scene played to them. Like, did you feel like you were missing out? Did it make you want to go watch those episodes on Paramount Plus, or did you think, oh, they're telling me everything I need to know, this is fine? I'd be curious to hear feedback from anyone watching it like that.
I feel like they definitely, the way they had Riker be like, and like Rolair, and I was like, oh, that's for casual viewers to be like, this character's important. Pay
Yeah,
attention.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
Well, the Sydney LaForge's reaction to her autopsy, I see in the live audience, Andrew
You know
Hayes
what? She's-
saying, I would
she's-
poop too if I saw that.
yeah, like it's gross.
She
She's gotta
changes
be
her hairstyle
disconcerted.
later too, which is interesting. I wonder if she's just like, okay, I don't want to look like that.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, she has different hair at the end of the episode.
I feel like I would puke if I saw any autopsy. Like,
Yeah, probably not for the squeamish. I
Yeah.
don't think anyone. It must take a lot to get desensitized to that, right? Like, how do you get used to like seeing like human bodies cut open? But I guess it's possible. I guess people do it.
That's what they do.
yeah.
Yeah.
I took an anatomy and physiology class in high school and had to do a little dissecting of animals, and it was difficult but doable. So
In college, I was in
I took that.
anthropology. We went to a body farm. So that was just like,
Oh.
the different layers of decomposition of people. And like, that was
Oof.
like, okay, I can deal with
Yikes.
that. I guess I can deal with anything. Just like, yeesh. We all had to sign waivers and stuff like that. It was like,
I see, Father, you've pulled up the message that Beverly sent Jean-Luc. Her second trust no one, which
Yeah.
would usually mean the shit's about to hit the fan.
Yeah. So you had
Continue to trust
another
no one.
X-Files connection.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's right. She's going
Yeah.
full Scully.
Is someone gonna say
Actually,
the
she's
truth
going
is out
Mulder, I
there?
guess.
No, she's both. Blazing Bev can be both Mulder
Wow.
and Scully.
She transcends with her third eye, and
But it was well structured to put that autopsy scene in there right when Picard is beginning his debrief that Ro is giving him, because it does remind you like, oh yeah, so Ro is either a changeling herself or she's going to be really freaking paranoid that other people around her are changeling. So you know like she's going to be a problem for Picard. Either like she is one of the bad guys, or it's going to become necessary for him to prove to her that he is not one of the bad guys. So it was a cool way to put this big
it's
conflict
good
in here.
structure. It's good structure.
Yeah.
And it was
Good
very
suspense.
tense. It was very tense. Just like two people sitting in rooms talking
Yeah.
to each other.
I have to admit, it's like that's kind of a pretty classic suspense thing, but I sort of love it every time it happens when somebody is in a room with somebody and they get like a phone call or a little text or something like that.
I like how he just
that tells-
blocks it with his body. Like, don't
that
look
tells
at the
them-
screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, the person you're
I-
with could be compromised.
And
Love
I
it.
also love that it's like, it's like these characters have a history together, but it's like not a good history. So it's like, is it tense because it's these two people in a room together, or is it tense because one of them is evil?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if they were meeting under any circumstances, there would be a lot of tension. Especially like,
yeah.
Picard is pissed. He is fucking mad at her, like right off
He
the bat.
is. He
he's talking
held
about like
on to this one.
your ego is so big it led you to betray me and all of that stuff. And yeah, like there is a lot
I've
of
been
baggage
rehearsing this
there.
for 30 years.
Yeah, like he
I love-
learned Bajoran language just so he could talk shit to her in her native language in the event he ever comes across her again.
Yeah. I like it though. I like that Picard has that prickly side that could be
Yeah.
a little that could hold a grudge, I guess.
I love that is the exact type of petty I would expect Jean-Luc Picard to be.
Yeah.
But like, of course, the whole thing is that he did, mentor her, and the conversation that stems from this when they go into the holodeck is, I think, one of the real highlights of the episode, where they both say, "You broke my heart, man."
They are really getting their money out of the season 2 set they built for Guidance 10 Forward.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
Good
I
for
think
them.
it's a gorgeous set. I love, doing stuff on the holodeck, but I think we've seen enough of it. I don't need to see more of it in the rest of the like the Titan
I bet
holodeck
we're
can do
gonna-
other things. Like
I bet we're gonna see more of it. I hate to say it, Fathery, but there's gonna be
I'm
some,
sure.
maybe in the outro, the denouement to the series or something.
At least we're getting off of Metalis Prime. We know that we're going to see Daystrom Station, so that'll be some new sets, some new locations there.
It's just the 10 forward redraft. Just like,
Oh, like
Wait,
they get to
what?
Daystrom Station, and it's like, so we're all big fans of Guinan's 10 Forward bar. We actually made the interior of our station look just like that.
Yeah, when we're mixing
That's-
chemicals, it may look a lot like we're mixing drinks, but it's chemicals.
That's,
We're doing science, y'all.
That's where they find they go run into Moriarty and he's like, oh, I created the same holodeck image.
So
But mine is an evil bar.
we get the confirmation from Ro that Starfleet has been compromised again. So it's kind of like season 1 of Picard, where like, oh, the Tal Shiar have infiltrated Starfleet. Now it's like, oh, it's actually the Changelings this time. So it's gotten a little repetitive to, Dave, I always reference the time you made the joke of like, what is it like at Starfleet HQ? Is it like one admiral is like possessed by a conspiracy bug, and then he comes across someone who's like, oh, wait, you're secretly like an android who infiltrated Starfleet? That's so embarrassing. I'm a conspiracy bug. This other person's like, oh, I'm actually a changeling. And someone
is
else
there
like,
anyone at Starfleet Academy
Yeah.
that actually is from Starfleet Academy?
I think you've
Rose
brought
Red
this theory
Headquarters.
up to me, and I think I've brought this college humor sketch up again before, but there's a college humor sketch where it turns out everyone in this high school classroom is a high school student, like an adult pretending to be a high school student for different like
right.
trope reasons. One person's a reporter, one person's trying to like
Write a story.
Yeah, one person's like, I'm trying to live my dream of being a football player again.
That's why none of them look like actual teenagers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the the infiltration thing is I do think one of the weaker aspects so far.
I agree.
But that's still got some room to play out and see if they can spice it up.
But a lot of season 3, I thought they're like there's a lot of ideas that I dislike on paper. I was extremely vocal about Picard and Beverly having a son, Starfleet infiltration. A lot there's a lot of things in here that like I would never have asked for. However, the execution has been consistently top notch.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that I was mixed on in episode 1, I just recently rewatched episode 1 after seeing these first 5. And I really like episode 1 now. It's with this additional context. So the execution.
The way I felt about episode 1 would be notably changed by in being informed by later episodes.
Oh yeah. I remember like Dave, we were talking about that off mic. I was telling you like my reaction was considerably different, and yeah, I'd be curious if anyone has kind of a different view on the early episodes.
Dave, you even said you liked episode 1 better just by watching episode 2, right?
Yeah, and that was just a little ways in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They name drop Admiral Janeway here. I liked that when Picard's like, why don't we just go to Admiral Janeway? So I wonder if she's the commander-in-chief of Starfleet. She's pretty high ranking, if not that, if that's who he suggests they go to. And then he says Chancellor Roll.
Does Picard take place before or after Prodigy?
After.
Okay.
About 15,
he's definitely not the commander-in-chief.
16. This is like 17 years after Prodigy.
Okay. Because she's definitely
so we can't
not
have
the
Dal
commander
as
in chief of
Janeway.
Prodigy.
So like if Dow and Gwyn and Jankum, if they're still alive, they would be in their early 30s at this point.
Wow.
God, I hope they're still alive. I hope they make it to 30.
God.
Starfleet is dangerous. You don't. Sometimes you get killed by Armus when you're young.
Yeah.
Murph is is the cause of all of this.
I hope that doesn't happen in the show for children. Until
Turns out to be the darkest Star Trek of the
I'd be okay if one of the Prodigy kids end up with a good death.
Yeah, we'll see.
But yeah, I don't know who Chancellor Roll is. That was weird. Like Chancellor's normally like not a thing in the Federation. So
Klingons have chancellors, right?
Yeah, but Roll is a very like Earth name.
Yeah.
I asked
unless it's like R''OL.
Yeah, I asked Dayton Ward, like, are we supposed to know
maybe
this person? He's like, it only appears once. So I'm like, okay, I guess not.
Maybe is there like a chancellor position in like the civilian government?
Not that's ever been mentioned on screen.
Okay.
But I think it would have to be some. I mean, we know like the head of state of the Federation is a president, but like some countries have like a prime minister, head of government, and then they kind of have like a ceremonious like president who's head of state or like stuff like that. Like that's pretty common in a lot of like European countries, for example. So I don't know, maybe that's what the chancellor is. It just seemed weird. I'd like to bug these writers about that at some point. So that might
sometimes,
be.
I occasionally wonder if something like that could be like they put in a placeholder name. They're like, we're gonna like look up somebody a notable name later, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a patient person. It takes me a few years to talk to these writers out.
Like,
who knows? This will become a book. In like 5 years, we'll have the huge backstory of Chancellor Roll. And we're like, oh my gosh, it was that guy.
But I guess the more important thing we learn is that Rose says, yes, there's a lot of interest in your boy Jack. There is some big plans for Frontier Day, and this is fleet wide. There have been incidents across multiple ships. I don't even trust the transporters. If you notice, like that changeling that was on the Titan, Ensign Foster, that he was the transporter officer. So maybe maybe they figured like they would take over all the transporter rooms for some reason. I don't know, but like it's a big widespread conspiracy.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff, like sort of some key aspects were just kind of set in stone here of like, we know that the big event is probably going to be Frontier Day and all that. Emotionally, I did like that. They kind of both had something to call each other out on, where they were close because he had mentored her, but she also felt that his mentorship came with strings attached, and that it's like, oh, you're trying to, what did she say? She was like, you're trying to turn me into yourself or something. I forget exactly how she put it,
something like that.
but she definitely felt like she was being somewhat forcibly molded, so it was like a conditional thing.
Yeah, mentorship on his terms, basically.
I was to say, going back a second, is that it kind of makes sense. The changelings would take over the transporter chiefs. Also, they were talking about how they do scans for changelings.
Mm-hmm.
A past episode, because it makes sense to me, because I always assumed they used Bashir. They chose Bashir to take over because he was the one doing the blood tests.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like they can cheat the scans now.
Yeah.
So, which was cool. I like that they're taking old stuff from Star Trek, but they're not just doing like how Star Trek Online does, where they're just like, oh, let's just like pull things out of the existing shows and do new stories with them for the video game, which is cool. I think that's fun and everything. But they're actually like putting like new spins on things here, which I think is you're kind of oddly, if you're making like real like official canonical Star Trek stories, you shouldn't just be derivative of the past. You need to add new things to it.
And they might not be really allowed to be that, out there with Star Trek Online. There might be like
I bet they aren't.
You can't
stay in your lane kind of a thing.
Yeah, you can't do the groundbreaking stuff then, because you don't want to like contradict the things that'll happen in the shows. So you're kind of obligated there to you have to follow what's been established.
I mean, they already have accidentally contradicted stuff.
They already had what?
They have already contradicted stuff on accident, because they had like Voyager stuff and they had Seven and like.
Oh yeah.
I think they've mentioned now that they're in a different timeline or something like that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Worf and Raffi for a little bit before we finish up the Ro and Titan stuff. But yeah, we get some more of that Jerry Goldsmith Klingon music. We see Worf being all like cool and like calm and collective, like the more mature Worf who'll just like drop down to his knees and start meditating in the middle of a fight with Raffi. But I like that he still has his temper when she pissed him off, when she's talking about, everything that she has sacrificed. If you knew how much I'd sacrifice all this stuff. And then I love when he snapped for a moment. He still has like that Worf anger when he threw the duck tog into the floor, and he's like, "Do not presume to know what I have and have not sacrificed for this." So
and he
at
also
some
called
point,
her out
not
for
put holes in my floor every time you need to make a point.
He also called her out for like pursuing something he told her not to and stuff like that.
Yeah, when she tries to blame him, like, "Oh, you killed Sneed, the guy with the information." He's like, "Yeah, I did that because you didn't follow orders. I had to come save you." But I think this indicates that at some point in the show, I want to see Worf go berserker. I want to see him go crazy. Yeah.
That said, I loved Sensei Worf.
I do too.
When
I
he's
like
like
that
just
design
blocking
too.
her without looking, even just like pop.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
Which I've seen in many a martial arts movie. Neo did it, but it's not far from the first.
As watchable,
this feels like it worked more realistically too. I don't know. I kind of bought that he could be doing that.
As watchable as I find these scenes with Worf and Raffi, I have to admit that it does feel quite padded. I don't know if it was necessarily a good idea to have like that confrontation with Sneed, the crime boss, and then do a very similar thing with the confrontation with Kryn, the crime boss. It's like, couldn't they just like, we already know they need to go to Daystrom. Couldn't they just like already be off this planet? It seems like this whole thing of like, oh, they got to get the security device from Kryn. It just seems like they just need something extra to do to keep them around on Metalis Prime a little bit longer. So it definitely comes off as padding. However, it was enjoyable padding. It was very watchable padding. Kryn is a cool crime lord as much as Sneed was cool. He's quite different. I just love the idea. It's kind of like a stupid idea, but I like it. I was just like this Vulcan gangster who has like this gold Idic necklace hanging from his neck. I missed
that somehow. Yeah,
he's got bling. He's got bling.
That's just bad.
No, I like it. I dig it.
Well, it seems like he's, when he's...
It's cringy.
When he made his justification for it, he's like, you can't have a utopia without crime or something like that. And I was like, I don't know. I'm not sure where the logic quite is in that.
Yeah.
But I kind of like the idea.
That I was like, but I bought it as an excuse. Someone would say,
Sure.
Right,
And
he's a little
Janeway,
justify his
unbalanced in
actions.
some way.
as
yeah.
Janeway told Tuvok once, logic, logic, logic. You Vulcans always talk about logic. Y'all can make logic justify anything or condemn anything. You can twist it to be whatever you want. And that's true. And I'm glad that a character in Star Trek finally told that to a Vulcan, because I think that's very, very true.
One thing these scenes do bring out that's not too much fluff, although you could have done it differently, is just that Raffi has gotten physically formidable and like in combat and been trained by Worf now, like tutored a bit by him, and we're reminded that Worf is like pinnacle level combat. Something for the noob or for the casuals.
Yeah, there was something that bumped me about this scene, which is when I thought was like, it just made me go, huh, that's kind of funny. Is that well, because I liked the line reading on it, but when Kryn calls Sneed his brother, and Worf is like, the Ferengi is not your brother, and he's like, no, but then I was like, Worf, you're adopted. You have a human brother. Like, what are you talking about?
Worf was like trying to catch him in some sort of legal argument.
But I think I actually thought, he said that, and I was like, Worf, people could be adopted, and then I went,
Also,
wait, you're adopted.
Worf is kind of racist against Ferengi. So he's like, that was a Ferengi. That was like the subhuman troll, like disgusting little creature that deserved to be decapitated on sight.
It does kind of fit Worf's past
If
vibe,
I could go into the Star Trek universe, I would want to like take like a iPad that has Star Trek Picard episodes on it, and just go to DS9, go to Quark's bar, and just like show Quark that footage of the episode of Worf cutting off Sneed's head, just because I just want to see Quark's reaction to that, like, oh my god, that was terrifying. Why would you show that to me?
Or he might be excited actually.
Quark
like,
would
okay,
do
that frees up.
Ferengi shriek.
Yeah, I guess you can't do that after the head has been severed from the neck. It would have been cool if they could have added the Ferengi shriek in there for Sneed. But I haven't watched.
I would say the one thing is like going back to the very beginning. Gene was always very careful not to call it a utopia. It was just like, we've improved, but we're not perfect or anything like that. And then it was like, can't have a utopia. It's like, we don't have a utopia. That was never mentioned. Like, you made that up.
Although, to be fair, it was the bad guy saying that, so it might in his head he's like, yeah.
He also had like a very Vulcan way of saying the old expression pride goeth before the fall. The way that his Vulcan master taught it to him is the natural evolution of pride is downfall. Pride leads us into traps, but patience brings great rewards. It was a very Vulcan way of. It's like, oh yeah, this is what a Vulcan criminal would sound like. And I never watched the show 12 Monkeys that Terry Matalas also did, but I guess the actor who plays Sneed and the actor who plays Kryn were they played guys who, they weren't biological brothers, but they were like brothers in 12 Monkeys. So
that's cool.
That might have been a little bit of an inside thing.
A little inside joke there.
I know the guy who plays Kryn from Fringe.
Kryn Fringe. This is sort of the second time Worf's taken a dive in a fight. He sort of did it when he fought Martok, right? In Soldiers of the Empire.
Oh yeah. He left himself vulnerable to Martok to stab him.
Yeah, he's a guy who's willing to do whatever. He's good on martyring himself.
There's that cool moment later when Martok is like, "How did you know I would have spared your life?" And Worf is like, "I didn't know, but you needed to regain the respect of the crew in order to complete the mission." I was like, "Yeah, like I love that side of Worf when he does."
He did set up, like Raffi for what was to come, by emphasizing the word sacrifice before they started dueling. He basically said, "I'm going to be the one who takes the dive here."
Yeah, and I mean, this one obviously, like, it didn't fool me. I know that Worf's going to meet up with Riker and Picard later. We've seen footage of that in the trailers. But I did like the dialogue though. Like, oh, he did say like today was a good day to die, and like it did. It felt like it would have been like, I don't know if it'd been like a worthy death scene from the character, but it felt like a believable way for him to go out. But yeah, it was very, very satisfying when he, springs up later and he explains like, because of his training, he's able to to fake death so well, and I did chuckle. I chuckled out loud when he said, he's trying to be like the cool badass, and then like he pauses for a second and just says, "I am in desperate need of medical attention."
That made me laugh.
Speed this a lot. Like, I'm losing a lot of blood and we'll pass out very soon. Let's hurry this up.
Little acknowledgement of reality.
Yeah. Like, if I do not go to a doctor within the next 30 minutes, I will probably be dead.
I love when the show. No, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I love when the show remembers that Michael Dorn is the funniest cast member.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His Klingons never disappoint or whatever. I feel like it's going to be used as a headline in on Memory Alpha and other little Trek bios and stuff for Klingon sections.
Yeah, they were taking bets on who would win the fight, and Kryn says Klingons seldom disappoint, and then later, Worf has to correct him and say, no, Klingons never disappoint. That's a bold claim. I mean, like, right after you slept with Kalar, you proposed marriage, and she turned you down quick. So kind of seems like she might have been disappointed there in that
Wasn't
moment.
she? Isn't she part human?
Yes. So it was the human side of her that was disappointed. But he's a full Klingon, so
he's just
still
uninterested.
Still a Klingon who disappointed.
Yeah.
But Joanne Robertson in the live audience, she was saying she was confused about the combat, but it's kind of a Vulcan thing to force people into a one-on-one Mortal Kombat. As strange,
like their flights to the death.
Yeah. As illogical as it seems.
Dichotomies,
there is a tradition of it. We also learn here that the Daystrom station is guarded by a sophisticated AI system that they will have to circumvent when they go there to continue the investigation, presumably in next week's episode.
Is the AI is it mid-journey or?
I
want it to be Badgie.
I think it could be Moriarty. Yeah. They repurposed Moriarty to be the security. I don't know.
That'd be fun.
It's that cat that
would be
Dr. Girardi made in the alternate universe.
Spot 73.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what. I mean, it could just be like an advanced computer program. But we'll find out then. I guess they got the device. They got the MacGuffin that they
got the key.
Yeah. That only existed so that they could waste time on Metallus Prime and do something else and reuse these Metallus Prime sets.
I did like Kryn's thing where he's like, they figure out that he's got this special key, or he reveals it, and she's like, and now you're going to give it to us. And he sounds defiant at first. He's like, that would be logical.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny.
But you know why I like that, though, is because, Sneed was a very Ferengi gangster, and Kryn is a very Vulcan gangster. And the Vulcan handled Worf and Raffi a lot more intelligently, whereas Sneed handled them more greedily. He was more worried about his own greed, whereas Kryn is a bit more of an intellectual. So even though it's weird to see a Vulcan criminal, it's still as much as Sneed was a Ferengi, Kryn is very much so a Vulcan. And a Vulcan criminal more likely to survive than a Ferengi criminal, apparently, because they are smarter.
It's like electronic tea and crumpet, so you put that in, and that distracts Moriarty, so you can get in.
Oh yeah, that's the secret. Or his girlfriend. It's like a
the Countess. Yeah, exactly.
Let's wrap up stuff on the Titan, though. We have the heartfelt goodbye, the departure after Ro and Picard. They've kind of talked things out. They seem to have kind of worked things out, and it is kind of moving. It kind of made me tear up a little bit when she says so sincerely, like Michelle Forbes really sold it, made it feel so genuine and honest. It's like, how could Picard deny it at this point? But when she just says, I wish that you could see into me, see into my soul and see my true desires and intentions and values. I never meant to betray you. I was just doing what I believed was the right thing to do. And Picard finally accepting that a little bit. And of course the earring exchange, which pays off later. Although it doesn't look like her earring. It looks more like Kira's earring. It's a different earring.
I was
than
thinking
what she
that
wore.
too.
Yeah.
It's a Bajoran earring. I could see her. It's been 30 years.
In fact, it probably makes more sense for it not to be the same earring all these decades later.
Yeah.
Also,
because wasn't she not
a
always super into her religion?
Right.
Is there a point where she had doubts?
One of those things, nice things that separates her from Ro.
I mean, I'm not religious. I'm not Catholic at all, but like I think like my Irish heritage is kind of cool, and sometimes like I find myself on St. Patty's Day. How appropriate to talk about this, a day of recording St. Patrick's Day. But yeah, I think like sometimes like I don't mind some of the the Catholic imagery in Irish culture. I think it's kind of kind of cool and
no, but I would think the Bajoran earring, I've always found it similar to either like a Catholic or other Christian person wearing a cross, or like a Jewish person wearing a Star of David.
And she
It's like a little
doesn't
bit of jewelry
believe in
to
the
indicate
prophets.
religion.
She was not someone who had like the Bajoran faith, the Bajoran religion. And that's why she wore the earrings
maybe
on the wrong ear.
And you know what? Maybe she got a little more religious when someone literally found the prophets.
Well, what was it Picard said? He's like, what is it, another institution you've turned your back on?
Yeah, he's giving her so much shit for that.
Man, he was trying to say some really biting stuff.
Yeah, he was just it's like the thing. It's the thing that people do, like when they're really bitter. You try to think up the most hurtful shit you could think of and say it, because in the heat of the moment, you're that mad.
Remember that time you decided you wanted to try drawing again? You gave up on that too. No.
Remember the time you wouldn't jump on the bed with Guinan when we all got turned into little kids?
Yeah. Oh, that's it. She got beamed off and she's a kid again. That was the only pattern that they had left for her.
Oh no. I wonder if maybe part of the appeal for Michelle Ford's were a couple things, but maybe was acting with Patrick Stewart again, because she kept like turning down things and be like, "We want you to play Ro again," but she's like, "I have no interest in in." But it's interesting. It's like this scene, which is mostly just you and Patrick Stewart, and I was like,
"Yeah, I mean, if you are going to appear only one time and you are going to die in that episode." This was some great writing to go out on. I can absolutely see being drawn into it.
I also think maybe Michelle Ford, it's like a Harrison Ford only coming back with Han Solo to die, which clearly that's what he wanted. I was like, I wonder if that was appealing to Michelle Ford, because she obviously she doesn't want to keep playing this character, so I think it probably appealed.
All right, if this is what it takes to get y'all to stop bugging me, I'll do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Leave me alone. But to
What's funny
she can come back in Lower Decks and the Prodigy, because all happens before this.
As an actor, she probably got some. I mean, this had to feel like some pretty. I mean, objectively, I feel like it was pretty good writing and like a great opportunity to play off of Patrick Stewart. Now I wonder if she is okay, now that my character's dead, I kind of wouldn't mind doing more stuff with that character.
Well, then she can do voice work on the animateds that take place before this, like Aaron was just saying.
And she doesn't put makeup on then. Right?
Yeah, no makeup. Just you don't even have to. We can
no prosthetics.
We can send someone to your house to set up your recording.
Yeah, isn't that basically what happened with Leonard Nimoy? Where he was like, I wanted Spock to die, and then he was like, actually, no thanks, come back.
I think so.
Yeah, they thought that he wanted to die, so they're like, okay, we'll have you die at the beginning of Wrath of Khan, and he saw the script and he's like, oh, why am I not in this movie? Like, move my death to the end. And he's like, okay, I'll come back if you'll let me direct. Maybe Michelle Forbes will get resurrected, but they have to let her direct it.
Yeah.
I choked up for real though. Like I kind of teared up a little bit, like when they say goodbye and she hands the earring off. But yeah, I choked up hard during like the the shuttle kamikaze into the Intrepid nacelle, like when Picard, when it mirrors Preemptive Strike, and instead of like Ro asking Riker to tell Picard, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to betray him, instead of Ro like apologizing, here Picard apologizes to Ro, and it pays off like as resentful to her as he was this whole episode, and kind of a asshole to her. And then here, like when he asks her, no, you're the one who needs to forgive me. I've forgiven you. And that acceptance between the two of them.
He's had to put aside his ego. I count 3 notable times during the course of this season. First, when Shaw told his story and he just walked out of the room. Then when he tried to see if he told Jack he might want to get into Starfleet, and Jack very clearly says that's not happening. And he just kind of slumps and just leaves. He leaves again. And here he's got to be the one who he has to be the one who says that in a way that he's fucked up before here, that it's terrible that he couldn't see her until this moment.
There's been a few times in season 3 of this show where I thought like, wow, they're really just like doing like these really bold things that I think I would have been scared to try. Like in the end of episode 2, when the big famous moment when Crusher walks onto the bridge and doesn't say a word to Picard, and he's like no, like he's my son. And Picard kind of like takes command of the Titan, and that's Shaw concedes, and then like when Picard does like the cool catchphrase thing and says engage. And it's like, oh, what like an earned moment to like do that. It's like it would have been really easy to have screwed that up and just come off as like dumb and goofy with engage, catchphrase, everything. But like here they do like something similar. I thought like, wow, that was bold that you tried this and you pulled it off. But in like this big, serious, dramatic moment of Ro's death, they're like, oh, what's like another famous Picard thing? Oh, like the meme and like the face palms. It's like they're gonna have like Picard like do like this big, serious, dramatic face palm pose, but it works. It like totally worked.
Yeah, I didn't even consider that as I was watching it.
That didn't even like occur to me that he's doing the meme, and I literally have a bust of the meme behind me where I watch Star Trek.
I watched the episode like 2 or 3 times before I caught that, but I was like, wow, that was a bold move.
Yeah, well,
you mentioned
or it's just something he does.
You can count on Patrick Stewart's acting to elevate it.
It was a beautiful shot too of when he has his head down like that, and then on the view screen you see the Intrepid with the nacelle on fire. So it kind of like symbolizes like the corruption of Starfleet and just like the sorrow weighing down on Picard. It was quite a beautiful image, I thought, and good visual storytelling.
It's like the band or the light in the bridge always reminds me of something like almost like a Cylon eye or something like that. It definitely feels like
it looked like a cobra rising up to strike. Also, the special effect when she hits the nacelle and it like spews out warp stuff, whatever it does, looked really cool.
It actually looks like her shuttle blows up right before she hits it, like the bomb went. So like she was like, I just got to get the shuttle like close enough. Yeah, the explosion hurts them. So she just like barely got there in time. I like that too.
I was because you were mentioning all those moments. I feel like this season is like, hey, remember that like all these people are really good actors? What if we just like gave them moments to like show that off?
Absolutely. That's the reason why I think I keep saying like this show is a lot of stuff like I wouldn't want on paper, but I love the execution. And it's because like this cast, when this cast is working together and you have these characters bouncing off of one another, when you have Picard bouncing off of Crusher and Riker, and like they are just so fucking good at like making whatever story you give them. There's a lot of like TNG scripts that I think are just not good at all, but it's like they are always just fun to watch because these characters are so delightful.
Yeah.
It's just like they just have great chemistry, that TNG chemistry. It's really like there's other Star Trek shows I like more than TNG, but it really truly does have the ensemble with like the greatest chemistry, perhaps out of any TV show that I
think that's what adds to the rewatchability to it too. Where, like,
for sure.
Times.
No, there's something about like all of the casts are great when like together in a panel. There is something about the TNG cast where one, I was like, that set must have been chaos. 2, this is really fun to watch.
Well, I watched the Ready Room this week, and it was fun to see Michael Dorn talking with who's the actress who plays Rafi?
Michelle Hurd.
Michelle Hurd.
Yes.
Yeah, it was fun to see them talking, and you just always get good vibes off of the TNG actors and stuff. It's cool to see them.
Yeah, and I say this all the time, but the TNG cast off camera, like when they're just the real actors in real life, they are as close of friends as the original series actors pretended to be when they were playing the characters. It's like, oh well, the TNG, it's actually real, and so that's cool. That's cool that they have that. I love that. But enough about the TNG actors. Let's talk about Jack Crusher, one of our new characters, and when he goes John Wick on the changelings that he didn't even know they were changelings.
Yeah. Early in the episode when I was like thinking after his first dream of killing people, I was like, the point at which you're having regular murderous ideation, you probably want to like talk to somebody. Maybe your Dr. Mom would be a good person.
And Dr. Mom, her nice friend her nice friend that's a therapist.
Yeah, right. I guess
Who
she's
hasn't done
not-
anything on the show except talk to
Yeah.
Riker on 2 phone calls.
Get her involved. Honestly, that's quite possibly going to be
You
one
do a
of her
Zoom call with her.
opportunities to come.
I wonder. I'm starting to think. Like, I'm sure she does appear, but I know Marina Sirtis like lives in England now. I wonder if they
Yeah.
like it took like there was like a. I wonder if some of that was filmed back in
All
England.
Zoom-
Didn't we see her
Zoom
like
footage.
on the La Sirena in the preview? On the
Yeah,
trailer?
at some
Yeah.
point,
She-
all these people will be like sitting around a table in a room
Yeah.
together.
Right.
I think
They're
it's
going
the
to-
conference
there was-
the conference room
Okay.
on the Titan.
Yeah, the one thing like, even if I hadn't seen shots of Worf like in trailers that hadn't happened yet, I wouldn't have thought Worf would die. Because I was like, they're not gonna not have a scene where all the TNG people are together again, minus maybe
Yeah,
Brent Spiner,
that's true.
because
No,
Right.
the lore will be there. There will be a shot that has all of the 6
Mhm.
surviving TNG people and lore because they'll want Brent to be in
Yeah.
it. There will be
Yeah.
a shot of all of them on screen. Like the actors have said that. Like yes, there is a moment in the show
Okay.
when you see all of us will be in the frame at the same time, and it's really cool.
Mhm.
So what I need for some fan to do is take that footage of whenever that happens, and I need him to overdub the score from Lord of the Rings when the Fellowship all passes in front of the camera, and maybe like
Oh yeah, the trailer shot.
the trailer shot. Yep, and then I also need like a Magnificent Seven overture, like music from all the big shots, like the right
Mhm.
stuff, the right stuff walk. Yeah, just overdub it all
Yeah.
over and over.
Well, it sounds like Dave is trying to create a new meme template.
If somebody could do it who's more talented than
Why don't
I
you
am,
just do it?
that'd
Just
be
you
great.
do it.
I'll work on it.
What all you need is
But,
a shot and music over it.
Yeah.
I can do that. If someone
All
Yeah,
right,
gives me
let's,
the
let's,
shot.
let's see if they give us a good shot to work with. Try not to
Mhm.
screw
Okay.
this up, Star Trek.
But yeah, with the Jack thing, I think it really does add to kind of his isolation. Like it's scary. Like if something weird like that was going on with you, you'd probably be like,
Mhm.
I got to get away from people. Like I don't know how to like talk about this to anyone.
Yeah.
And he does like eventually open up to his mom.
Yeah, he said
Um,
he told the transporter guy, he's
I
like,
mean,
drop
he's-
me off anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
glad
he's
he actually
clearly
did
trying
say
to be like,
something
I keep
finally, though.
Killing people in. Yeah, I keep killing people in uniform. Take me somewhere where there are no people in uniform.
The
Yeah.
actor playing him did a good job, was able to summon some tears when he's kind of
Mhm.
breaking down and he says, I think something's really wrong with me.
Yeah, Ed Speleers is really
pretty
good.
real.
He's really good in these
Mhm.
moments where he's supposed to be like, Jack is like visibly unwell, and he looks like it like in
Yeah.
any moment he's either on the verge of like breaking down in tears or going on another murder spree. It's very like scary
Mhm.
and unsettling, and
I also
it keeps
this kind
it
of
keeps
gave
making
me
me
confirmation that whatever's happening with Jack is new, because he's like, it's not like him being like, oh, this is happening again. He's like, something's wrong, and I don't know what this is.
and the
If you
weird
look,
voices.
You can see
they're-
Beverly kind of like shaking her head. Yes, like you can kind of see her like a
Mhm.
weird like subconscious
Oh.
head bob.
That's probably because she's a changeling.
No, that's because he unknowingly, like Bashir, or I guess did Bashir know, is an augment. And
Possibly.
she did that to protect her kid from all those dangers she knew that association with Picard would.
I mean, the thing it's most similar to is when Soji and Daj in season 1 of Picard, when they would activate and go crazy and
Yeah.
start murdering Romulans left and right. That's what it
Mhm.
seems most similar
Mm.
to. But I
He's a
don't
robot,
think he's a
that's
synth. Yeah, I don't think he's a synth like they were. Unless
Oh, it's a synth, the changeling. There you go. Figure that one out.
unless there's something else weird with Dr. Crusher. I mean, it's possible that she's the changeling, but I don't know. Like a lot of her behavior seems she's been very counterproductive to the changeling goals.
Yeah.
This whole season.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's.
I feel like if she was
Likely.
a changeling, she in no way would have told Picard, by the way, the blood test doesn't work anymore.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I think she's probably I suspect there are still some changelings on the Titan, and so that's like a cool. Yeah, we've seen it a lot before, but yeah, it's a cool little suspenseful thing. Like there could anyone could just turn out to be a changeling at any moment.
Do
that
you
and
think
also
it's
like
any of the major characters?
no,
Like
I don't.
I don't either. Except like
I mean,
maybe a major character who hasn't been around yet, but I don't think anyone.
Maybe
major on the
Shaw,
Titan.
but even that, I don't think Shaw's a changeling
I hope
either.
not.
I hope
I
not
don't-
too. At this point, I'm ready for the Titan show with Shaw and Seven and whoever else lives.
Yeah, well, first
I honestly,
contact
like,
day, we need to
obviously
do
he
something to
wasn't
signal boost that.
Yes.
Obviously, he wasn't actually like he wasn't a changeling; it was something else. But it honestly, the idea of Shaw being the changeling, it's a little too close to the first season of Discovery for me with Lorca, with the kind of
Mm.
asshole captain. Turned
Oh,
out,
yeah.
though he's still evil.
Yeah, let him
Uh,
go ahead and just be an asshole, but not a villain.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much in our live audience to Lily Mack for a super chat of $5. We super appreciate that.
Absolutely, very cool.
I have it there. I don't want this to be true because because every week I'm like, where's Geordi? I was like, what if Geordi ends up being just like, because it seems like the type of person they would want to try and get, because they're like, well, Picard will trust him.
Doesn't catch a break. He just like,
There's no way.
Yeah, exactly.
They can't have Geordi be a changeling. No.
Lily in our live audience is saying Terry Metalla said he had to find an actor with enough chops hold his own in scenes with Patrick Stewart. Younger actors couldn't, but this guy could. And yeah, I understand that. That's not the first time I've seen an actor playing a younger character in television.
Yeah,
I doubt it'll be the last.
Again, as one of my friends tweeted, I was like, if you're complaining about his age, you have to watch Riverdale with me. Like
Beverly Hills 90210, like any show that has like a
Buffy the
teenager in it.
Vampire Slayer,
Yeah.
Smallville.
Exactly.
It's like any it's really hard to employ actors that are under 18 years old.
I'm
various
just
reasons.
gonna
When you watch
point-
like
Physically,
point
they're
out
just
that-
going through changes still.
point out that there is an actress who played teenagers on Saved by the Bell and Buffy, and also Pretty Little Liars. So
Wow.
we don't know what teenagers look like. Fully like almost 40 when she was on Pretty Little Liars, and I bought it until I was like,
Logan's
isn't that the girl from Buffy? What the how is
I mean,
that possible?
there are like some actors who like they just like they're really short and have a baby face,
Yeah.
and they just make
Some
a career
people-
out of playing like Aaron Eisenberg, like just
That's true.
did
Some
he
people
just
are
played
elfin.
young people. Yeah, or like
Logan's
that guy,
Run
the-
had,
the
like,
kid in Mary
cancer.
Mary, the bad kid, the bonk on the head kid.
Yeah,
That dude is like 35. And he looks like he's 12.
yeah.
I put out, people always think I'm way younger than I am, so I was like, I don't know what people look like, what age people look like.
Well,
in
not
Logan's
all
Run,
of
they
us.
were originally supposed to be like 18 when they
Correct.
renewed or whatever, and
Yep.
they were like, no, we can't find somebody that age to be in a movie, and so they make it 30, and those people still look like they're like 42 or something.
Yeah.
Still doesn't work.
Michael York looked like a perpetual 40.
Yeah, that's true.
The other big tease at the end comes from the earring, which is another cool. It's kind of a MacGuffin-y thing. It's very like sphere data in season 2 of Discovery, but it's kind of, or it's like that database they had on Enterprise in season 3, going into the Delphic Expanse to find the Xindi. But it's kind of cool. It's like, oh, here's a big resource of information. It makes sense why they have it, why this is all put together and handed to them, and it will be useful later in the season when the characters like they need to know some important info. This is why they have it. So I'm okay with that. But and it was just cool. It's like, oh, like the earring, the really like famous thing of like Rose's introduction. Oh yeah, the girl Riker yelled at for wearing an earring. Like here, Riker is like, oh, this is an important thing for spycraft purposes, and it
Yeah,
actually,
that was
like,
cool. Old school spycraft.
yeah, it held all this.
And also,
information.
it made sense to me that I was like, yeah, Riker would be into old school spycraft.
Yeah, that's the kind of guy he is. I feel like he reads old spy novels.
And all this time I was wondering, like, oh, how is they're doing this this thing with Worf and Raffi, and they're doing this other thing with like Picard and friends on the Titan. How are they going to tie them together? Will it feel forced? Will it feel natural? And it's like, oh, it feels very natural because Ro did it on purpose. She's like, Ro's like, I got this dude Worf working on this. I'm gonna go hand this over to Picard, and then boom, there you go. It all makes sense, all ties together. Very excited
It
to.
doesn't feel forced out of universe because someone in in-universe forced it in for a reason that made sense.
Yeah. So very, very excited to see the characters hopefully reunite, not just with each other, but Geordie LaForge as well. And it'd be nice to get like Troy, in the flesh and not just like on screen. So we'll see where that goes next week. But yeah, I'm hoping to see everyone, on the Daystrom station. I think that would be fun. So any additional final thoughts on this episode before I go into the Gorn segment of the show?
I mean, I'll say this: it's a pretty strong start to Arc 2. And I do want to give like a little side compliment to the actor playing Shaw for his few scenes that he. I was wondering about something he said actually. He said something like Emergency Order 762 Alpha. I wrote it down. Now in effect. Do we know what that is? Does that just mean like, we're cutting off ties from Starfleet, or we're, there's some sort of compromise up above?
I wonder. I mean, that would make sense as we've talked about.
He says it right after he said Starfleet has been compromised.
It only has one intro, and Memory Alpha is just from Imposters, so it sounds like it's something new.
Yeah. I almost wonder maybe it's like specifically they have a code of like, hey, there's changelings.
I'm sorry, I was looking at the chat and I can't multitask. So, Dave, what did you say a second ago?
Oh, I was just trying to puzzle out when Shaw at the end, when he gets on the horn with the rest of the crew and he says Starfleet has been compromised. Emergency Order 762 Alpha now in effect. And I just wondered if that meant anything that we knew. Clearly, it had to do with some sort of security protocols or something.
Yeah.
Like
So,
that.
sometimes they do recycle those. I'm very confident that was a new one. But I actually.
That's what Aaron said. Memory Alpha has
Okay.
only the entry from this show on it.
I normally double check those. For some reason, I didn't double check that one. But glad to know that my instinct was correct.
But I also liked when Shaw told Jack Crusher, "Nice shooting, kid," for taking down 4 dudes. 4 changelings.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't have been so complimentary if he knew like, I actually didn't know they were changelings. I just, I just have like an uncontrollable urge to go crazy and shoot people.
I think Shaw would be. That's exactly what he would expect.
I knew it. Well, let's get into the Gorn egg section of the show. This is where I like to talk about the Easter eggs and jokes and continuity connections that I thought were worth pointing out in the episode. When we see the Titan under repairs, I actually I let out like a big sigh when I watched that, because I wasn't sure if those were supposed to be work bees or if those are like the dot robots from Discovery, which people know I'm really not a fan of the dot robots. I don't think they're appropriate for the 23rd century or the 24th century, to be honest. I think they look like dumb. They're dumb Star Warsy, cute little R2D2s that are like goofy droids and not like a Star Trek technology. So hopefully that's not what those were, but I don't know. Maybe they were, and if they are,
I heard that they were work bees.
Okay, I hope so. But yeah, work bees. That's cool. That's something from the motion picture. Worf's database had a few Gorn eggs in there. Like on screen, we see names of some familiar characters, including Laurel of Rania. That was one of the criminals in Who Mourns for Morn, the one posing as Morn's widow, who Quark finds hanging out in the mud bath naked. We didn't know her homeworld, Rania, but we know it now. But speaking of Morn, we have Morn of Loria on screen. Of course, Morn from DS9. Worf knows him. They used to spar together on the. Speaking of sparring, so before he sparred with Raffi, he used to spar with Morn in the Holosuite. And there's also Brunt of Ferenginar. So Jeffrey Combs having some recognition in Star Trek Picard season 3.
Good old Brunt, perpetual asshole of the Ferengi.
Let us also not forget the outrageous Okana, Thadian Okana
Rocketeer.
of Omega. Yeah, the Rocketeer, great movie. But yeah, he is mentioned as well, and you can see him in Lower Decks and Prodigy. He's had three references lately in Star Trek after being ignored for 3 decades. So
when last we saw him, he was abandoning kids to death.
Yeah,
I'm
still. That needs to be wrapped up somehow.
What will that wacky Okana be up to when next we see him? Who knows? I'm sure there's more Okana in the future. The Intrepid itself, this new ship, new class in universe, it is the Duderstadt class. named after Dorothy Duder, the late wife of Star Trek legend Doug Drexler, who's done incredible work for Star Trek for many, many years. He was part of the art team on a lot of the Berman era Star Trek shows. Actually designed the NX-01 Enterprise for Star Trek Enterprise, and Dorothy worked on that show also as the food stylist on the show. So yeah, unfortunately she passed away to cancer, I believe, last year. So very, very cool that they were able to pay tribute to her here, and Doug was one of the old veterans that Terry and Dave Blass brought back to Picard for this third and final season. So that was really cool, and I love that the franchise does stuff like that and is able to support the members of our Star Trek family like that. And that was a design by Bill Krause, who also designed the what became the Titan, but what he called the Shangri-La class. So that's kind of neat. They're using this dude who just a fan who came up with these ship designs a few years ago, and now they're like, oh yeah, let's actually hire him and use these designs in the show.
And they also mentioned that a lot of these, you've heard the Intrepid, you've heard these, and they're bringing them back because their entire shipyard was destroyed. So they're basically retrofitting and re-engineering existing ships, which I thought that was kind of interesting.
Intrepid is a common ship name in British and American navies. Yeah. There's been Intrepids. There's USS Intrepid mentioned in the original series, right? That's one of the constitutions. And then, of course, there's the Intrepid class, like Voyager. So it is one of those recurring names.
Yeah.
So glad they didn't slap a letter on their registry. They just gave it a new registry because only very special ships should get the letters, like the Enterprise or Voyager. But apparently the Titan now too. Shaw runs off a list of fuck ups from the TNG crew, starting with the Chipper Shaw and the turbolift.
He was winning a geek trivia contest.
So we got
I felt that. I was like, oh my god, I've been in this situation before.
It's like someone with a good memory starts listing off all the times you messed up to try to keep you in your place. Yeah, so we have the time someone hot dropped the saucer of the Enterprise D on a planet. That was Meridian in Star Trek Generations. Then he goes on to say, or that time someone threw the Prime Directive out the window so they could snog a villager on Baku. That's clearly referencing a Naj from Star Trek Insurrection. By the way, she is perhaps my favorite of Picard's sweethearts over the years. I don't particularly love that movie, but I like her. But I don't know. Maybe I think she's really hot. Maybe that has something to do with it. But the next one Shaw has is
that's how the Prime Directive gets thrown out, Fathery.
Yeah, that's
just that easily.
The magic to make the sanest man go mad, right? That was a Discovery episode title, but that's what it's talking about. The third one from Shaw, or that time you boys nearly wiped out all of humanity by creating a time paradox in the Devron system. That was All Good Things, the TNG finale. I'm glad someone is keeping track of these because that's pretty notable. The next Gornag, I was pretty proud of myself for catching on my second viewing of the episode. But Kryn actually has the Vulcan phaser prop that was created for Deep Space Nine, but was never used for a Vulcan on Deep Space Nine. They did use the Vulcan phaser on Star Trek Lower Decks, though. And then if you follow Jörg Hillebrand on Twitter, who's really good at pointing all this stuff out, I saw today he actually had a picture of it from one of the Star Trek art books and some pictures of when Quark used this phaser, even though it was created for Vulcans in DS9. I don't know. I've never heard someone say which episode this prop was created for. I think it might have been that when that Vulcan Maquis lady came to the station, maybe she was supposed to have this. I don't know any other Vulcans on DS9 who would have been packing heat, but Quark used it a couple times, but yeah, I like that the Vulcan phaser being used by a Vulcan in live action finally. After I didn't know about this prop. I didn't know the meaning to it till a couple years ago, actually, until I think Lower Decks season 1. So I was like, oh, there's this long lost forgotten Vulcan phaser that never got to be on screen as a Vulcan weapon, and now it has been. So Rose betrayal that's heavily referenced, that is Preemptive Strike, the penultimate TNG episode. So one I definitely recommend people revisit if you don't remember it, because it is a big part of the story in this episode. Picard also offers Rose some Bajoran spring wine when they go to the holodeck bar. Spring wine from Deep Space Nine, first seen in DS9 Season 4 episode Return to Grace. And then last but not least, I really love this, the Daystrom Station. There's a one shot of it. We see the visualization of it after hearing it mentioned for a few episodes. But the way that they designed this, they made it like a 1990s Star Trek kit bash. It's like they took Jupiter Station and the Midas Array, and then they took a bunch of the Y-class freighters from Star Trek Enterprise, and they combined like all three of those things together. And it's so unnecessary to do that, but that was kind of the design mentality Star Trek had, because so many things were physical kit bashes. So I like that in the CGI era, they're just doing the same thing. I'm like, yeah, let's just kit bash these 90s designs. And it's cool. I don't know. I love that. I love that. That's all I got, though. We'd love to hear what people think about this episode, though. We did receive some subspace transmissions last week. We're low on time, but Dave, if you got some good ones that that deserve their moment in the spotlight, let's go ahead and share some thoughts we received from people on last week's episode, No Win Scenario.
Sure, let's fire through it. This one had was the episode where the crew got out of the nebula, and we found out Shaw's backstory, and Picard dropped an F-bomb. So first up, PD York says, rewatched 1 through 4 last night. Brilliant so far. Details well the struggles old friends who were out of touch and out of practice would have. They had to relearn their cohesion, inspire a strange crew, and pull it off, all while another faction is trying to manipulate them for nefarious purposes. Let's see. Captain Sven says, I went from hating Shaw to understanding him. Todd Stashwick is an amazing actor. Disco Spock MD says, I could not love that dipshit from Chicago more. Let's see. Robbie, Earl Grey Trekkie says, felt very TNG with the unfolding character moments. Great bonding between Jack and Picard and development for Shaw. I love seeing the birth of a new alien life. I'm intrigued as to when Worf and Raffi will get on board the Titan. Us too. I guess on the swearing front, let's see. Oh, I gosh, I think I might have lost this person's name. Maybe it's PSE. Says there's literally a scene in old Star Trek where they come to our time and get so surprised how filthy our language is. So in that sense, it's not fitting for them to swear. I don't know. I think that might have been just a gag in Trek 4, but fair point. It's in the canon.
I thought they were just confused about the swearing, not
the exact idiom.
Didn't know how to do it. Yeah, exactly.
So, and lastly, Just Rosie 5 says, it's nice to see Rachel on here. A lot of these podcasts, not all though, are just 100% male. And while they're good podcasts, it just feels like a huge unfilled void, the lack of others' voices. Thanks for having Rachel on here. It's great to hear what she thinks about everything. So,
oh, that's sweet to hear.
There's also a comment that said, "Can y'all please not have that fathery dude on here anymore? No one likes him. Please get rid of him."
He's the episode 1 Shaw of this show. Please.
Yeah. Well, request denied.
No.
No. I ain't
Father,
going
you need
nowhere.
a fork and some food to be chewing on. When
it's like as obnoxiously as possible. But yeah, so that was a lot of fun. I want to hear what people think about this episode. Please comment, reply to my tweets, comment on the Tex-Trek Facebook page, join the Tex-Trek Discord server, and talk about the episode there. We might share your responses next week because we'll be back Friday at our usual time, 7 p.m. Central if you want to catch the live show, or you can listen to us wherever you get your podcast. But we're going to be talking about Season 3, Episode 6, The Bounty. Not to be confused with Bounty without that was an Enterprise episode, but this one is The Bounty to make it a little different. So, but yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be in just a few days. So I hope everyone comes back for more Picard goodness, and then only 4 more after that. It'll be over before we know it. Wow. So which TNG characters are gonna survive, and which Voyager and DS9 characters are gonna make cameos? Because I Ro is not like the last like surprise cameo. I think before the end of this,
I would kill to see Kira, just for the record.
I think we're gonna get a DS9er and we're gonna get a Voyager person.
I feel like if it does turn out the pod race, if it does turn out to be anything to do with the pod race or the Prophets, my guess is Jake.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Sirach, or you did you do some shooting and didn't tell anyone about it? I don't. If he kept a tight
genuinely
lip on
I'm
it, like
so impressed that they've managed to keep everything about Ro being on the show under wraps.
Yeah,
and this is why on Tex-Trek we don't talk about like set leaks if like photos get leaked and stuff like that, because these people work really hard to they work hard to surprise us. So we want to,
and it's fun when they do.
It's fun when they do. So we want to help maintain that.
I like gasped when Ro came on screen. Like,
yeah, that was another audible reaction for me. I gave out a verbal cheer when that happened.
I had that was not even on my radar of like that could possibly happen. So I was glad that I was surprised by that.
That's kind of surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, come back next week and maybe we can all like cheer and celebrate when Geordi hopefully shows up, and we'll talk about it then. But until
Geordi
then,
the Changeling.
yeah, who knows?
I in my head I thought of it. I don't want it. Like, I don't want Geordi to be a changeling. And I think even if Geordi, like, or someone like of that caliber is a changeling, they're not gonna be a changeling the whole time.
Yeah, they'll get unchangeling.
We'll see real Geordi. If he's changeling Geordi, we'll get real Geordi of it. If any of these people are changelings, we'll get the real ones eventually, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah. So until then, as always, live long and prosper, y'all.
Listen to the Tex-Trek podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or at tex-trek.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/tex-trek, and follow Fathery on Twitter at TXTrek. Please support us by liking our videos and subscribing to our channel on YouTube. Thank you and take care.